Hello there guys, and welcome to another one of my reviews. Today, as you already noticed, we are going to test drive the brand new Maserati Grecale. And this is a very important offering from the Italian manufacturer that's sort of trying to find its way to, again today in this very crowded and very busy automotive market, especially in the upper echelon of the luxury products or the premium products. So this is the second SUV Maserati has ever made after the Levante, which didn't really prove to be a huge sales success. And some of the reasons why that car proved to be a bit of a flop have to do with the technology offered and the platform it is built on. Well, this car is planning to improve on all those aspects and show the world that the Porsche Macan can be thrown off the throne, if you will, in this segment. So this is a SUV. This is an SUV that's basically the same size as a Macan, the same size as a BMW X3, a Q5, or a Mercedes GLC. The thing is, this is not a rival for the German Trio. This is a rival for the Porsche Macan, and that's about it, because it is a very much better built car. It feels a lot more premium and it drives incredibly well, but we're gonna talk about that later on. So I know a lot of people don't really like SUVs, and they sort of frown when traditional sports car makers are starting to build this sort of car. And that happened when Porsche, for example, launched the Cayenne, and then some other people frowned even more when the Macan was launched. But truth be told, without those cars, we wouldn't have Porsche today, or at least we wouldn't have it in the shape or form we have it right now, because Porsche was in really dire need for some money when it launched those SUVs, the Cayenne first and foremost. And it's the same story with Maserati. Maserati has to adapt to the marketplace today. Everybody wants SUVs, so it's delivering. Luckily for them, they are part of a group where a very capable platform is offered that was adapted to create this car. I'm talking about the Giorgio platform, which was used for the Alfa Romeo Stelvio and the Alfa Romeo Giulia. And that's a very capable rear-wheel drive platform that is also used for the Grecale. We're going to talk about how this car drives and all those technical stuff, all that technical stuff when I get behind the wheel. But for now, let's talk about the design. I think this car looks absolutely brilliant, and I think it couldn't have looked any other way, because Maserati has to keep its iconic design cues in check, and it has to keep them on all of its cars. So I could have bet whatever sum of money you wanted that we would get a huge grille up front, just like we got over here with the Maserati Trident right in the middle. Now, compared to the Levante, this one doesn't get those active flaps behind it to adjust for various driving modes, but I don't think it needs it anyway. The headlamps, yes, they might look like the ones used on the Ford Puma. They do have daytime running lights in the shape of a boomerang. It's a design element that was found on Maserati cars since the 1970s. And it looks really good. I love the details inside the headlamp, like the spelling of the brand and the brand logo, and the fact that when you're driving the car, you have these orange lights over here. We have huge air intakes up front, and I think the car looks good. From the sides, you'll notice the huge wheels. The Grecale gets 20-inch wheels as standard, and we have 20-inch wheels on this car, but you can get 21-inch wheels as well if you want it to look better and lose some of its comfort. I also like the fact that the roof slopes towards the back, giving it a sort of coupe-like style. It's not boxy at all, and it looks good. The rear end also looks good. We have boomerang style lights for the tail lamps, and we have 4 tailpipes that, of course, make the car feel a bit more sporty. We have the Maserati logo on the tailgate, and once you open that tailgate, you will notice a rather decent boot of 535 liters with no loading lip, which looks absolutely great, and I think it's going to be very practical. Inside the new Maserati Grecale, we have an interior worthy of the Italian badge. Every single spot in this interior is done to a great craftsmanship, and it is done impeccably. It is refined, well put together, and the materials used are of the highest quality. So as we all know, Italians are pretty good at manufacturing leather products, and the interior of this car shows it. The leather is of the utmost quality, and it is everywhere. It is on the top of the dashboard, it is on the bottom of the dashboard, on the seats, on the door panels, everywhere. You only get some plastic on the bottom half of the car, on the B pillars, but nothing you would ever come in contact with. Apart from the leather, we also have wood, black wood, classic piano black, which is actually wood, not plastic, and looks and feels really good. We have chrome plated elements over here, and everything feels like it should in a Maserati. One highlight is the sound system, which has grills made out of laser cut metal. It looks really good, and it's coming from Sonus Faber. It's an Italian high-end sound specialist. It's part of the Macintosh group, and it sounds really good. So the big takeaway here should also be the technology, and the interior of the Grecale, unlike the interior of the Levante, feels like it's a 2022 car. So we have 4 screens inside, and looking at the interior at first, you might wonder where the 4th screen might be. Well, we have a 12.3-inch screen over here in the dashboard, in the shape of a dashboard. We have a 12.3-inch screen for the infotainment system. We have an 8.8-inch screen for the HVAC controls and shortcuts over here, which are used for various functions. For example, you can adjust the 4th screen from over here, which is the clock. So basically, this clock has a number of functions now, and you can adjust them using this menu over here. You can also adjust the look of the clock if you want to maintain its normal function. So if you want to keep it as a normal clock, you can adjust it to a classic feature, a sport finish, or a design finish. But you can also turn it into a compass. You can turn it into a brake and power meter and a G meter. So it has a number of functions. Furthermore, the car actually responds to your inputs using this screen. For example, if any notifications come up, they will be popped up over here. For example, when you connect your phone to the car, you will get a notification here. When you talk to the car, because you have vocal commands, it will respond using an animation here, and so on. So it's a really smart implementation of a digital clock in the 2022 year, in year 2022. So it feels like as if the car communicates with you through it. I actually like it a lot. Also over here you can adjust the ambient lighting, the seats, and the lights, because we no longer have a light cluster on the dashboard or on the steering column. So yeah, I like it a lot. As for the infotainment system, it's based on the Android system, and it looks a lot like the one I saw on the Alfa Romeo Tonale. It works really well. You have widgets over here you can actually configure. You can choose what kind of information to be displayed on the screen. And of course you have internet on board and a number of apps you can install. Furthermore, you have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay on this car. So all issues you might have are gone. But I think I really like the way they did the design of this system and the way it works. As for the instrument cluster, it's highly customizable and it looks absolutely brilliant. It also has a very high resolution, and I can't really complain about anything about it. You have 3 different ways of displaying the info, all of them very clean and with a focus on the information displayed. As for the steering wheel, well, flat at the bottom, we have 2 very interesting round buttons over here for starting the car and for the driving modes. The driving modes are Comfort, GT, and Sport. This is a GT model, so it will start in GT mode. But you can also configure the suspension separately. You have a button over here for the suspension setup. So let's say you want to put the car in comfort mode and turn on the sports suspension. You can do that by tapping this little button over here. So overall, I really like it, but there are some things that I don't like. For example, I don't like the fact that we have the gear shift lever, if you will, turned into 4 buttons over here. Using them is a bit iffy. I guess it's a matter of getting used to it, but there is a sort of safety feature embedded. Basically, whenever you're going from drive to reverse, you have to press on the buttons a little longer, and there's a delay between switching. So if you want to turn the car around in a faster way, in a faster fashion, in a more urgent fashion, that's going to be a bit annoying. Furthermore, we lost the handles for the doors. If you want to open the door, you have to press a button over here. I think this is overly complicating things. It's not something customer would actually want, but you know, we live in the 21st century and everybody's trying to innovate where they really don't have to. A normal lever would have worked just as well. Now let's hop in the back and see what kind of space we have in there. In the back, the first time I hopped in, I was quite surprised by how much room this car is offering. As I said, the platform used is the Giorgio platform, the same as in the Alfa Romeo Stelvio. However, compared to the Stelvio, we have an extra 85 millimeters in the wheelbase, and that seems to make a huge difference. There is a lot of room in the back. So I'm 6 feet tall and about 250 pounds. The driver's seat has been adjusted to my comfortable driving position, and I have enough knee room over here and headroom for longer trips. And we do have a panoramic sunroof on this car, which does take some of the headroom in the back. But it does feel like a very spacious rear end over here, and I also have enough room to stick my feet under the front seat, so that's also a big plus. So we also have contours over here in the seat for our knees, and I think it is a very spacious interior, a lot more spacious than the one found in the Porsche Macan, for example, where I could barely fit. But it is at least on par with the more practical German choices like the X3 and the GLC. So yeah, I love it, and I love the fact that we still have the same great quality materials over here in the back, and I still hate the fact that we have buttons for opening the door, but I guess that's what you get. So yeah, let's set off and see how this car drives. Now that we're behind the wheel of the new Grecale, let's talk about the technical side of things. As you probably already know, this car is built on the same Giorgio platform as the Alfa Romeo Stelvio, and it shares a lot of its underpinnings with it. The platform was a bit modified to make more room inside the Grecale, but other than that, it's still a rear-wheel drive platform, and it is still one of the most capable rear-wheel drive platforms in the world right now. I saw that on the Giulia, which is a incredibly well-handling car, as well as on the Stelvio. So the Grecale had a lot going for it even before I got behind the wheel, and I have to say I wasn't disappointed. Now, in terms of specs, you have three choices in the range right now. You have the GT model, you have the Modena model, and you have the Trofeo model. The first two are both using a 2-liter 4-cylinder petrol engine that's been turbocharged, capable of delivering 300 or 330 horsepower on the Modena. Then there's the Trofeo, which uses a 3-liter V6 that's derived from the engine used on the MC20, that's capable of delivering 530 horsepower. And that's a completely different animal. That is like the M version of this car. Now we are driving the GT model over here. So with its 300 horsepower and 450 Newton meters of torque, it will do 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 5.6 seconds, which isn't bad at all. No matter which car you get, you will have all-wheel drive at your disposal and an 8-speed ZF gearbox, which work absolutely brilliant. Now the rear-wheel drive, the all-wheel drive system will favor the rear wheels a lot, so it will only send power to the rear wheels. Most of the time it will only send power to the front ones when needed. So this car behaves like a rear wheel drive most of the time, and it is absolutely brilliant in the way it drives. We also have adaptive suspension on this car, which stiffens up the dampers whenever you want them to. It is quite brilliant that you can actually adjust them using this button over here. So let's say you're in comfort mode but want the car to be more compliant in the bends, you just press this button and the dampers stiffen up. At the same time, if you're in sport mode, because this car has 3 driving modes, comfort, GT and sport, and you want the suspension to loosen up, you just press this button over here and things mellow down immediately. And I actually found myself using the sport mode with the dampers in their softer setting a lot of the time, because when the suspension is stiffened up, if you go over various potholes or uneven surfaces in the asphalt, the car will start to dance around a little. I found the car to be a bit more compliant in sport mode with the suspension in the softer setting, and it feels a bit better overall. And I have to say, this is one of the better handling cars in this segment right now. What you heard there was the warning for from the blind spot monitoring system, and it is quite a funny noise. So when you're driving this car in a dynamic fashion, it's quite amazing how well it can turn. It's very precise. The steering has been a revelation because it's very direct and seems to have some sort of feedback, even though it's an electrical system. It's an EPS, and even so, it's very direct and it offers some feedback to your fingertips, and that's a very big plus in my book. So the car, when you're driving it dynamically, it is quite well put together, and feels very neutral in the corners, but it will also oversteer very easily. Now, what I did notice is a lack of grip on the front end, but I think that's not because of the mechanical setup of the car. The engine is fitted towards the back of the car, very close to the cabin, in order to balance out the weight on the car. But I think that issue with the front end grip is because of the eco-friendly tires, the low rolling resistance tires. We have Continental Eco Contact on this car, and I think you really need some really grippy tires on this car to get the most out of it, like a set of Michelin Pilot Sport 4 tires, for example, because they will add a lot of grip to it, and you actually need it. It's a 1.8 ton car with 300 horsepower, and it is very capable in the bends. It keeps its weight under control very well, but you do need proper sticky tires in order to put that power down. Other than that, on the flip side, since the tires don't really have that much grip, you can get the rear end to skid around rather easily. So I did a number of drifts while I was driving this car without a problem. So yeah, quite an interesting experience. I love the way the 8-speed gearbox does its job. It's the ZF 8-speed gearbox, and it is well set up. These paddles behind the wheel are absolutely amazing, and they do the job perfectly if you want them to, if you want to use them, and the gearbox responds almost instantly. And you do have enough power. It's a 300 horsepower car for most needs. It won't break any land speed records, but you can get a Trofeo if you can afford it, and that car will do 100 kilometers an hour from standstill in 3.8 seconds, not 5.6 like this one. But overall, I think it has enough grunt and enough power for most people that will buy this car. And around town, it's going to be very comfortable. It is very well sound insulated, very easy to drive. One complaint could be the stiffness of the front seats. I found the front seat to be a bit too stiff for my liking, especially the backrest. I think it's a matter of personal preference overall. Some people might actually like it, but I do like the amount of side support you get from these seats. They really hold you together very well when you're driving in a sportier manner. And the suspension does its job brilliantly. It's a multi-link setup on the back, which makes the car incredibly comfortable around town. So overall, I really enjoyed my time with the Grecale. It's a very well put together car. It is a sporty experience overall, and it is definitely a very premium offering, considering everything you get inside, from the leather, the materials, the fit and finish. Everything is up to Maserati standards and up to Porsche standards, because this car was basically built to rival one model, and that is the Porsche Macan. So people will be talking about this rivalry for a number of years. Now, admittedly, the Porsche is at the end of its production run while the Maserati is in its infancy. So it will be a change of guard. The Macan will become a purely electric car starting next year with the new generation. The Grecale will also get an electric model, but if you want a high-end premium car in this segment, the Grecale will become your only choice if you want it with an internal combustion engine setup. So I see Maserati selling a lot of these cars, and I'm glad that's happening because they really need a successful offering on the market. As for the way they drive, I think they are very close. The Macan is very close to the Grecale the Grecale is very close to the Macan in all aspects. I think the Grecale looks better, feels more modern inside, feels better built, and the materials feel of a better quality compared to the Macan, while the performance is level. So if I were to choose, I would probably go for the Maserati. Also because the world is full of Porsches and Porsche Macan models. It is their best-selling model right now. And I think the Grecale will stand out a bit more. It will be a more special choice for the customer. It will stand out in the crowd, unlike the Macan. Well, that said, I would like to hear your opinion about this comparison. Would you go for the Macan or would you go for the Grecale? Both of them are brilliant cars, but I would like to know why you would choose one over the other. That said, this has been my review with the new Maserati Grecale. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Until next time, don't forget to like, share, and of course, subscribe. Ciao.